Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Get ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
John, I believe people follow you, but if they follow me, they end up going down a dead-end street. You know what I'm saying?
But they get lots of gems, Brad. They could find your Facebook page. They could find your Twitter. They could find wacky videos you make in the course of a day that don't even make it to the Brad and John Show.
Right, all that kind of stuff. That is John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. The reason I spell that is you need to plug that into your computer as johncombest.com every single day. Is it 23 years now, or are we still at 22?
No. And look, I'm not a resume reader, Brad, but it's 22 and change.
20.
I started the website in October of 01, updating it every day.
So in October it'll be 23 then, right?
Correct, yeah, that's right.
Okay, so 22 plus years, he has put together a list of all the important things going on in the state of Missouri. He combs the internet, finds these interesting stories. Sometimes they're news stories from like press agencies, newspapers, TV, radio stations. Sometimes they're official releases from the government, and sometimes there's stuff that I made up that John didn't even realize that I punked him on. No, I'm kidding about that. And every morning we start the show off with John's top three, but we have another special intro this morning. You ready?
Oh, I am, yeah. Now, remember, yesterday, Brad, I could hardly hear it, so hopefully I can hear this one.
Okay, see if you can hear this.
Time for the John Combest Top 3. Top 3.
How about that one? Did you hear that one okay?
Oh, Brad, I like that. That's it. It's very, very Shania Twain, you know?
Yes, it is. It's that female country pop kind of song, too. Okay, John, then we bring in this guy.
We're on our way to the number one.
And we start off with...
In third place.
A reprieve of sorts, Brad, for Dean Plocher. We know that the Dean Plocher Ethics Committee investigation has dragged on longer than it takes to conceive, carry, and birth a wombat. That anecdote, of course, is from our friend Scott Fawn. The House Ethics Committee voted yesterday, Brad, 6-2 against a recommendation in a report that slapped Dean Plocher's hand, that talked about how he was obstructing the investigation. Now, Brad, if you were to read the headlines from outlets like the liberal blog, the Missouri Independent, or the Post-Dispatch, you would think that Dean was in big trouble. But in fact, the Ethics Committee, the bipartisan Ethics Committee, voted 6-2 against the committee chair's report. I'll read you the headline from the Missouri Independent, Brad, which says, Speaker Dean Plocher accused of, quote, absolute obstruction, unquote, in House ethics investigation. Now, again, the bipartisan members of the committee voted 6-2 against adopting this report. Now, the really interesting thing, Brad, and here's where it gets really convoluted, and I'll give credit to the Missouri Independent here, also the Post-Dispatch and the Kansas City Star, each wrote detailed pieces about this, is that it was a bizarre ethics committee hearing, and that most of the hearings that they have, Brad, are behind closed doors. And the chair of the committee, Hannah Kelly, chose to have this meeting publicly. She chose to have the members vote on the report. And because the members voted on the report, Brad, then the report became public. So the media was able to go through, and citizens can go through and read the report. The short of it, Brad, is that this bipartisan group of legislators says that Dean Plocher has paid back what he owed. It shows that he did not do anything to they did not find that he engaged in any improper behavior in giving government contracts out. Now, they did point out in the report, I think most people would concede, that Dean made mistakes. He needs to take responsibility for it. The report also suggested that he start using a real independent accounting firm instead of using his wife to manage his books. So really intriguing here, Brad. And I think what's most interesting about it is that the committee chair, Hannah Kelly, chose to make this a public hearing knowing that the report would eventually become Republic and everything in it would become public. So if you're Dean Plocher, you're happy that this chapter of it is over. You know there's going to be questions about it, but you can also point to the fact that Democrats voted with Republicans against any sort of admonishment.
Well, I heard another thing. I heard that the committee was going to actually have him on the witness stand on the day that his son was supposed to graduate from high school, and he asked if he could be, have a day off from that, and they said no, he has to be there. He can't watch his son graduate. Is that true?
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, and in fact, it was inspired by New York, Brad. It was inspired by a true story.
Is that bizarre or what? I mean,
yeah. Well, it's not surprising, Brad.
Okay, moving along.
Up a notch to number 2.
Picture it, Brad. It's 1975. Okay, now I wasn't around then. You sure were. Lord knows. But in 1975, a man is buried in the end zone at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. Years later, he arises. He moves to Lexington, Missouri. And eventually, Brad, at the end of this Superman origin story, the superhero origin story, he becomes a U.S. Senator. And guess what? He becomes Josh Hawley Hoffa. And he accepts $5,000 from the Teamsters PAC, Brad. That is what happened. Now, I don't know about the origin story, but you can't tell me that, it's not a possibility. The Teamsters PAC has given $5,000 to Josh Hawley, Brad. This story comes from Joe Holliman of the Post-Dispatch. It was originally reported by Axios. Of course, I had this up on my website yesterday, and then the Post-Dispatch covers it. But I actually got the information from Greg Keller. So the Axios report talks a little bit about how unique it is for a Teamsters PAC to give to a Republican senator. So if you're Josh Hawley, of course, you're touting the fact that Teamsters are supporting you. We all know, Brad, that in statewide campaigns, $5,000 really isn't a whole lot of money. But to quote the Oscar-winning film Friday, it's the principality of it. You get what I'm saying, Brad?
Well,
if you're a Democrat, if you're some guy that's like, hey, I'm going to run a losing campaign for the Senate and at least I'll feel famous and people will cheer me, or you're a man or a woman doing that, you got to at some point be to the Teamsters like, dude, why are you supporting this guy who has a record of opposing organized labor and he's not standing up for the working man like I am? Let me put on my fake accent and say he's not standing up for the working man. So if you're a Democrat, you got to be pretty upset about this, perturbed about it, because it really is the principality of it, of giving money to a Republican. If you're Josh Hawley, of course, you're crowing about this incessantly, Brad.
I saw that yesterday, and I was somewhat surprised at that. And matter of fact, I reached out to his campaign manager, and I said, hey, almost 6 years ago, you said you're going to spend some money on my radio station. I said, you got that $5,000 that came from nowhere? You didn't count on that? How about sending it to us? And the guy said, just like 6 years ago, yes, we will spend that money with you.
And what happened, Brad?
They didn't spend a penny with me.
Now, Brad, for folks who don't know, occasionally on the BJ show, it becomes the BG show, which is the Brad's Grudge show. So yesterday we covered Tracy Ellis twice. We mentioned Mike Carter twice. And now we're talking about a decision Josh Hawley's unaware of that somebody on a low level in his campaign made 6 years ago. Well, anything else you want to bring up in the top three, Brad?
Oh, I do. Matter of fact, I don't know if you know this or not, but Mike Carter, he comes from a real estate family. His dad was a big real estate guy, owned a firm up in North County called Sunrise, if you remember that or not. His mom was a real estate agent. I think she's probably retired by now. And the interesting thing is that Mike Carter is going to go in partnership with Tracy Ellis, and he's going to do a show at 6 o'clock every night called Don't Blow. So it's going to be,
And that's about abstinence, right? Isn't that an abstinence training class for young women?
I have no idea. Okay, on to number one.
The number one.
Big government reporting day yesterday involving money, Brad. You say, John, everybody knows it's tax day. Wrong. Campaign finance reports were due to the Missouri Ethics Commission at 5 p.m. yesterday, Brad. If you have someone you know who you love in your life that's involved in campaigns, God forbid they do some sort of fundraising or something like that, guess what? Their life has been a terror until 5 p.m. on Monday. So we get the numbers, Brad. And the St. Louis Post-Dispatch has a piece today. Jack Suntrup did a good job going through and recapping the highlights of what candidates raised in the first quarter of 2024. Now, Brad, this might be timely, but Jack Suntrup included information there about the governor's race and about where the campaign cash standing is for candidates running for governor. Mike Kehoe has the most amount of money on hand. He's got $6.2 million. Jay Ashcroft ends the quarter with $2.5 million in the bank. Bill Eigel has $1.7 million in the bank. So Bill Eigel outraised in this quarter, Brad, Jay Ashcroft, which I think a lot of people will be surprised by. Now, Mike Kehoe outraised both Eigel and Ashcroft in this past quarter, which I think no one will be surprised by because I think everyone accepts that Mike Kehoe will have the most amount of money. But in light of the divergence, so to speak, between what Jay Ashcroft was able to raise this quarter and what Bill Eigel was able to raise this quarter, Brad, if you had an opportunity to ask Bill Eigel about that, I think it'd be a good question. You know, what do you think about the fact that you outraised Jay Ashcroft? How important is money? And why is your campaign going to be able to peak at the right time when another candidate seems to just be sitting on a ton of cash? I wonder if you get a chance to ask Bill Eigel that.
Well,
Brad.
I'll be honest with you. I already talked to him about it, and he said the reason I was able to outraise all those other people is because of the fact that I had this great new song that came out that promoted me, and people just went nuts. And, you know, the cash register started to ring, and the more the song got played on YouTube, the more money he got.
I could believe that. Now, Brad, I guess the real test of that will be you released your song and another Bill Eigel supporter released his song in Q2. So we're really not going to be able to know until July, Brad, how much the cash register is ringing because of your tribute song.
The other song was released a couple months ago, or released in
April. Yeah, I sent you a link to it about an hour ago.
I thought it was like last year. No,
it was I think April 4th, April 3rd or 4th.
What?
Yeah, I sent you the tweet.
I saw it. Okay. A lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to have Bill Eigel here in a few minutes. I have a couple things that I want to throw out to you that follow up. First off, an interesting Post-Dispatch editorial. We'll maybe, depending upon how much time we have with Bill Eigel, we'll do that in the second segment. Also, another interesting story about Wentzville School District. I don't know if you saw that or not. I
did. I started a daily news website here very recently where I linked to articles that mention candidates and state issues, Brad. It's called johncombest.com, and I linked to that over the weekend, yeah.
Okay, and one that I know you missed. A very important story. Actually, I feel it's an incredibly sad story, and it is a sad story. It's about John Wayne Bobbitt. You know who John Wayne Bobbitt is?
Oh, yeah. Brad, you know what? I'd let you go, but I think I got to cut you off.
No, listen to you. Okay.
I might take a knife and I might throw it out the window while I'm driving, Brad.
John Wayne Bobbitt is the man who was married to Lorena Bobbitt, and she accused him of cheating on her. So one night when they were asleep in bed, she took a knife and chopped off his you-know-what, okay? And the story goes that she got in her car and drove down the street and threw it out the window, and the police came and they were able to find it, and I believe they reattached it, okay? Here's the bizarre, weird story about this guy. And I mean, I'm not making this up. This is very sad. He's lost all his toes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, matter of fact.
Was he sticking those in some women and his new wife got mad?
No, I can't believe you said that. He has a condition called toxic peripheral polyneuropathy. He's lost all 10 of his toes and walks with the help of prosthetics.
Oh, wow.
And he says now he's 57 years old. He's a Marine Corps veteran, and he says he got it when he was stationed at Camp Lejeune in the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
And he claims that he was stationed at Camp Lejeune in the 1980s when the base had a water supply badly contaminated with industrial chemicals. He revealed graphic injuries to the Sun over the weekend and told Fox News Digital Monday that due to the illness, a minor injury suffered at a construction site led to infections, and that spread into his bones and forced him to lose all 10 of his toes over a decade. So they amputated all 10 of his toes. I mean, this guy, everybody made fun of I shouldn't say everybody. I felt sorry for the guy when, he got his private member whacked off by his wife. But, I mean, there's some people Who's the Peanuts character that he's always
The what character, Brad?
the Peanuts character, PEA,
Peanuts.
and
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't say what you said.
That's got the dust cloud over his head all the time.
That's right. Which one is that?
Pigpen.
For those of you younger folks out there, you're probably going, Peanuts, who's that? Yeah, Charles Schultz.
It's Pigpen, yeah.
Yeah, and he's always got in that case, he's got a dust cloud over his head. But in this case, this is bizarre, weird stuff. Now, I have to, in full disclosure, what ultimately ended up hastening my father's death was my dad has a leg amputated, and he had the situation with because of the complication of his diabetes. And unfortunately, the same thing that happened last year to Shelley Barr's husband, who had his leg amputated, almost identical situation where I think, the diabetes is a terrible, terrible disease. And unfortunately, it is in my family as well, too, with my father and other extended family members. But anyway, it's just sad. I feel sorry for the guy.
I know. And especially considering how well Lorena has done. Like, have you followed Lorena's thing?
No, what'd she do? I haven't.
She works at WashU now. She's at the Transgender Center.
No, she does.
She was one of their first hires, Brad.
No, she doesn't. You're making that.
I mean, because here's the thing. She was a pioneer in that field, and we talk a lot about Madame Curie, and we talk about a lot of other leaders in STEM, but we don't talk about Lorena Bobbitt. And so as a WashU Transgender Center moves from hormone therapy into actual surgery, they wanted to go to one of the women that really led the way in cutting guys' dongs off.
John?
Yeah.
I would say that you and I have done a reversal. That would be a story that I would tell. And people would go, is that for real? Did she really work at WashU?
I have friends at my alma mater, Brad, and when the phone rings and people ask about it, they can give an answer.
Okay, we are going to...
yesterday, Brad, you started a polka song. Am I not supposed to talk about kielbasa today? That seems to be the theme.
I did what?
I'm a pretty Polish girl. Oh, there we go.
Time for the John Cole Best Top 3.
Oh, yeah. I'm a pretty Polish girl. I want John's kielbasa. Treat me like a hot dog bun and stick it in my hay. That's a Polish girl anthem, Brad.
I updated the website yesterday, but you will never catch what I did. If I told you to peruse the bjshow.co website, you would never find out the change I made. And it's so glaring, and to me it's so funny. But
So what you're saying is I'm an idiot, Brad. No. Hey, John, it's glaring, but if you go there,
it's one of those,
you're not going to be able to see it.
One of those things when you looked at something on an everyday basis and all of a sudden it changes, you don't notice things. You know what I'm saying? It's like driving down.
As we wait to bring in our guest, Brad, on the
Right.
On the break, I'll take a look at it.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?